All right, I've got 6 o'clock. We'd like to welcome everyone to our February hearings for the Town of Canandaigua Zoning Board of Appeals. We have a custom of beginning our meetings with the Pledge of Allegiance. In the past, Eric Cooper has been kind enough to put up a flag for us. All right. So you join with me after the pledge. We have a brief moment of silence for our servicemen and women. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, thank you. We'll begin our hearings tonight with a continued public hearing for property at 4864 Bedford Drive. The owners are Matt Schwalm and Kylie Dunster. They're seeking an area variance for a side setback of 15 feet when 25 feet is required, a 10-foot variance. Chris, there was some email traffic about this application. Are we anticipating Mr. Schwalm and Ms. Dunster to appear?
He had sent me an email asking for
You're
the
on mute,
login.
Chris. Okay.
Asking for the login, but I don't see him on the list right now.
All right, then we'll come back to them. We'll come back to them later then. We'll begin our first public hearing, or new public hearing. This is for property at 3814 County Road 16. The owner is John Casey. The owner is seeking an area variance for a front setback for an accessory building of 4.76 feet when 60 feet is required. An area variance for a lakeside setback for the accessory building of 17.9 feet when 25 feet is required, a 7.1 foot variance. And an area variance for a rear lakeside setback for an accessory structure. This is for the paver patio of 2.5 feet when 25 feet is required. The resulting variance is 22.5 feet. Now, just for the benefit of those joining us who may not be familiar, Mr. Casey is an alternate on our board. He's not going to be participating in any deliberations on this application. He's here as an applicant, and we have not discussed this application in advance of Mr. Casey's presentation tonight. So John, go ahead and walk us through your application.
Well, Terrence, I'm pretty impassioned about this issue. And I'm not quite sure where to start, but let me start with the structure. I'm getting quite a bit of echo. Are you gentlemen hearing this?
Yes.
Everybody hearing the same thing?
Yes.
I'll mute everyone except for John.
I hope it's not my computer. So the structure, I came before the zoning board, I want to say approximately a year ago. And at that point, I believe I was granted an 11-foot setback from the lakefront. And during construction, I made some accommodations and was able to move the structure further back away from the lake, thinking that that was a good thing because the structure was going to be moved back from the lake even further than it was approved. And only to learn later on that I guess I needed a variance to do that. And at that point in time also, it was noted that I was closer to the public right-of-way than I was with the original variance that I had requested. So I guess those are discussion about those two variances, and I'll stop there with that conversation about the structure and just say, is there any questions that people have about that? I can go into greater detail I need to, or if people have some questions and want to understand that further.
The structure is the same size as before.
The structure is the exact same size. Yes. I can raise some of the points that I think I raised at the last presentation, if people would like that, and if people would feel more comfortable about that. I did a survey up and down Westlake Road from basically the first home that is constructed on the lakeside, which is the one that's up for sale now. And I believe it's the old Bud DeWolf property. And surveyed all the properties from there all the way to German Brothers, which I consider to be my immediate neighborhood. And needless to say, there are many structures that are closer to the lake than my accessory structure. And I could go through the long list of those properties and addresses if any members of the board would like me to, or feel it necessary that I do that. And I could also go and give you a bunch of addresses of property owners in that neighborhood that have accessory structures approximating the distance mine will be or would be from the public right of way as well. So again, I'll stop and pause there and just ask if there's any additional information the board would like me to present, or have questions that they might want to ask of me.
John, I just, do you have like a range? What's the norm? What's the average there? I know that everything's really close down that way, so.
Well, I was going to save part of my conversation about how many structures are close to the lake for the conversation about the pavers, but I will note that the property that is directly south of mine is built right up to the lakefront, and the property that is directly to the north of me is approximately the same distance from the public right of way as mine is. The property 3 doors to the north of me, again, has a structure that is similarly as close to the public right of way as mine. The property 4 doors to the north, I believe, is equally as close to the public right of way as mine. And I will go all the way to the pump house, which the city of Canandaigua owns, and they have a generator building, which is approximately as close to the public right of way as mine, and certainly is less than 25 feet from the mean high water as well.
What about like variances in the past? Have we granted any?
We have.
Okay.
And if you would like me to talk about just the structures, I'll start there because I want to save some of my information for the conversation about the pavers when we get there. The property at 3400 Poplar Beach Road was granted a variance. While this was to install a break wall right up to the mean high water. So no, this was more relative to the pavers and how close they are to the mean high water, rather than the accessory structure and how close that is to the road. So I don't know if I can speak exactly to your question, Kelly, about whether we passed any variances, but I can tell you that there are 30 properties along what I consider to be my neighborhood. And of those 30 properties, 20 of them have structures that are as close to the public right of way as mine is. 6 of those 30 I could not see because all of the houses are right up against the road just to the south of me. And 4 of them, or 3 of them, have not been developed, and 1 of them is the city's property. So I can tell you there are 20 of the 30 that I can say absolutely have structures that go right up to the public right of way. Additionally, let me just find my notes here. I can tell you the property at 3894 has a retaining wall that is close to the public right of way as mine is. I can tell you the property at 3880 County Road 16 has a retaining wall as close to the public right of way, if not closer than mine is, or my proposed is. 3874 has a retaining wall that is as close to the public right of way as mine will be. The property at 3868 County Road 16 has a retaining wall as close to the public right of way as my structure will be. And those are just to name a few. I probably could give you more as well, but I don't want to waste everybody's time with that.
So John, just so I can be clear on my mind, with the approval we granted in December. So that had two variances. One was for 3.5 feet from the front lot line. And now that's being increased to 4.76 feet, right?
Yes,
Okay. So that's a lesser variance than what we approved initially. Then on the rear, it was approved at 11.1, and you're going to
increase that to 17 feet.
17.9, right?
Yes.
Okay. So I follow those, and then I was trying to follow on the map that was done by the Venezia group. Where is the measurement that I'm looking for on the pavers?
The measurement on the pavers from Venezia's drawing is, I want to say it is near the lakefront, right around the southeast corner of the proposed accessory structure. You see the 4-foot dimension there? And then
Yes.
just below that is the 2.8 feet.
Okay. So
And as you can see, that is the narrowest point where the pavers are to the mean high water.
okay, so that 2.8 you're saying, as I'm going north along that line, it's decreasing from there to something like 2.5, because that's what I've got on the notice.
No, it's increasing from 2.8 to 6.84 to 5.9, I think, or something like that. I can't read it quite.
Yeah.
And then at the very north point of my property, it's about 6.7 feet.
Yeah, maybe I was not being clear. What I'm saying is where you're at that 2.8, right?
Yes,
And then just north of that, there's in red a 4.0.
yes.
Is that pinch point where it's the shortest, the 2.5, somewhere between those two numbers?
I can't answer that. I thought it was, the variance was for the 2.8 feet.
Chris, can you just clarify that for me? On my notice,
So-
I've got 2.5,
so-
so I know what
so
we're
the town-
considering.
The town permits reasonable navigational access to the lake. So we weren't taking in apart the pathway and stuff. We're just taking apart the proposed paver patio. And that point is where it gets 2.8 feet. The 4 foot is the amount of area that the DEC has requested that he remove from what he filled into the lake without permits and stuff.
Okay, so I just want to make sure that when we deliberate, we have the correct numbers. We have a notice that was for a variance of 2.5 feet. It won't require a renotice if it's 2.8 because that's a lesser variance. But I just want to make sure that when we read and vote and it's subject to this plan that we have the right number.
It would be 2.8.
Okay, 2.8. Okay. And that's square with you as well, John, if that's what we vote on. And
That is correct, yes.
okay. All right. We have any other questions from the board on this application? Dave, you're on mute.
Yeah, I know.
Okay.
I'm just wondering if, John, has there been any criticisms of this plan from the neighborhood at all? Has there been any comments that we don't know about?
The most of the comments I have received were from the neighbors expressing their disappointment that I wasn't able to move this along further and faster than it has taken. But I have talked to all of my neighbors, and I believe they're all, I will say I've talked to all my immediate neighbors, and I believe they're all in support of it. And actually, I've had a couple, 2 or 3 calls from people in the neighborhood asking who's been doing the work because they're so pleased with it and think it looks so good that they wanted to know who was doing it and wanted references. So, and then relative to Kelly's question, and I hope I answered your question, Dave, to your satisfaction.
Yes, yes.
And to Kelly's point earlier on about variances that we have approved as a board for pavers up to the mean high water as close as we have here in this situation. One was we approved a variance for 3516 Sandy Beach Road, Sandy Beach Drive. And they asked for a variance for a paver patio. And they were 4.62 feet from the mean high water. And that included a 1 foot thick concrete retaining wall. So the reality is that there was only 3.6 feet between the edge of the paver and that concrete wall. And we also approved a variance for 3400 Poplar Beach Road. That variance granted the installation of a break wall right up to the mean high water. I will also add that the property, again, directly to the south of mine, has a home built right up adjacent to the mean high water line. The property to the north of me has a paver sidewalk almost adjacent to and up to the mean high water. The property 3 doors to the north of me has a concrete sidewalk and pavers right up to the mean high water. And I will also note that, and Chris, I don't know if you can pull this up for everyone, but I would like to review with people drawing C-1, which was submitted to the town.
You'll have to give me a date on that plan.
That was the permit for the riprap erosion protection that was issued. And
The original one?
yes, that will work. Can you find it with that information, Chris?
I am looking, we have many, many files in this directory.
Any of them that were issued by Mahar and Associates referencing C-1 will work. There you go. And can we look at detail 1.1 And can we blow that up so people can see that detail? It's right in the middle of the page. Right there, yes. So I just want to review this for everyone so that you clearly understand what we're talking about here. I have already received an application or a permit from the town of Canandaigua to install the riprap along the lakefront as you see it in that detail 1.1. This detail was also submitted to DEC and approved. In fact, DEC and the town both encouraged me to install the riprap along the lakefront as detailed on this 1.1 detail. I originally wanted to and hoped I could install a concrete retaining wall, but I was told that they were no longer allowed and it would be a long, arduous process if I was to try to get that approved. But what I want to point out to everyone here is, again, Chris, can you go to that detail 1.1 for us, please? Yes. In fact, what we have here and what is shown is that this compacted crushed stone with the geofabric is installed behind the riprap. And I have received a permit to install this. I believe that permit says that I'm going to be installing this structure. The only difference that I see is that rather than installing 6 inches of topsoil in a very select area, what I did was want to install pavers. And the analogy is really that, you know, if you're building a house and the house is the structure, what you put on the exterior skin of the house, whether it be wood siding or vinyl siding, to me really is inconsequential. The fact that this layer of crushed stone below and behind the riprap is really the structure that I have been encouraged to install and was permitted to install. What I did was, or what I am doing, is substituting pavers for 6 inches of topsoil in a very select area. What I have done to help mitigate water runoff is I've left an area between the boulders and the pavers so that when water lands on the pavers and weeps off, it is going to run into topsoil and it is going to run into seed and drain before it hits the riprap on both sides of the walkway. I need the walkway, obviously, and everybody knows this, and we talked about it before, so that I can access the lakefront. It's virtually the only place, maybe one of the few places in the world, and one of the reasons why I bought this property, where I can access this lakefront and enjoy the lake with my family and my children. Unfortunately, this process has taken me near 2 years, maybe 2.5 years to get to this point, and I've lost a lot of time all of last year for the enjoyment of the lakefront with my family and my children. And when you get to be my age, as some of you may be close to it, you understand that time is very valuable, and I hate to lose time with my family and my kids. And I hope that you can all see to it that you grant me this variance so that I can get back to work and start enjoying the lakefront with my family, for the intent and reason why I bought this piece of property and developed it as I have. I will also add that I think I'm a very good steward of the property and a very good steward of the lakefront, and have been for over 30 years. And I get nothing but compliments about the development that we've done so far to the house and to the property. And I've got 50 acres of land here that filter all the runoff and before it ever gets to the lakefront. And I think I've created a nice area just to the west of the proposed accessory structure, where the water runoff from the road has a place to drain and filter through. I did see a comment from the ECB, and I probably don't even need to mention this, but I'm going to, suggesting there was some concern about the water runoff from the lakefront down that steep sloped area. And as you can see by this drawing that I did with Venezia, I took that into consideration, and I've in proposing to install natural slate stone there to mitigate the water runoff down that steep slope area. Because again, I want to do a good job, and I want to preserve and protect the lake as much as anyone does. So I hope that answers any questions, but if you have any, please let me know.
Well, thank you, John. Do we have any further questions from the board on this application? Okay, hearing none, we will open the public hearing to anybody in the audience. If there's anyone, and this will be the case for all of our public hearings tonight, if you wish to comment on an application, just state your name and address and then deliver your comments to the board. We don't allow comments directed at the applicant or for the applicant to direct comments at anyone in the audience. All comments, both from the applicant and those in the audience, are directed to the board. So any questions from anyone in the audience? Okay, hearing none. John, are you comfortable closing your application?
Yes, I am.
Okay. So for the benefit of everyone tonight, on each application, when I ask if the applicant is willing to close, that means we'll close the public hearing portion. The deliberations will still occur later, but the public hearing is when we can receive information from both the applicant and anyone in the audience. Once the application is closed, no additional information is received, the public hearing is ended, and we have 62 days to render a decision. So hearing from John that he's comfortable closing, we will close this application and go forward. We will call just once again, see if there, oh, I do see Matt Schwalm there. So Matt, we had called you initially. I know there were some challenges logging on, but we'll go back to your application now. This is 5864 Bedford Lane.
Yes, thank you. Sorry about that. I had the, well, yeah, a little technical difficulty, but thank you for being patient.
No problem.
So yeah, the last application that I submitted, it was denied because of my oversight on the rear variance, if you remember correctly. So with a corrected application, reapplying for that side variance, the west of the property, going from 25 feet to 15. And in going through the application and this entire process, it was, I can put an outbuilding there, but the application is for a conditioned building. So where I could have an outbuilding where the 15-foot variance is able, I'm asking for the 10-foot variance to go from 25 feet to 15 to put a conditioned addition to the house. So, I mean, going back to my neighbor's letter where he said, please don't put an outbuilding here. It won't look good for the neighborhood. What we're trying to do is avoid that and put in a nice looking addition that would stay consistent with the neighborhood, the town of Canandaigua, and, you know, build an area with a bathroom for, you know, a homeschooling running area for my children, as gyms and pools and other play areas have been shut down. I would be able to bring up I could share a screen and go through that again if you would like. But what would the board like to see in terms of?
I can
this
share a
application
screen
again?
here if you want. Here we go.
That would be great, Chris. Thank you. Yeah, so Terrence, if you remember, on the application, the main issue on this first go around was that it needed to be, I'm gonna misremember those numbers again. There's an issue with the rear variance, which has since been corrected on the application. Yes, right. So that is now fixed, and what we would like to do is go ahead with the one variance request going from 25 feet to 15. And actually, and I'm sorry, Chris, this drawing's incorrect. It would be more consistent where the 20 by 40 blue block is actually up closer to the driveway and just off the garage there. So there will still be a conditioned breezeway from a conditioned space, but to get to that 30 feet from the application, it's actually that 20 by 40 block is going to be pulled forward about 3.5 feet. And then with that 15-foot variance, obviously you can see from my neighbors at 4866, and there was another aerial photo that showed when this development was first put together, the 15-foot variance from property line was the standard. So what we're trying to do is one, make the neighborhood, stay consistent with its look and not put an unsightly outbuilding, where our neighbors would see it. But to stay consistent, to go with, it's not going to be out of sorts with the neighborhood in that there are at least 6 homes that my wife and I saw that are within that 15-foot variance of the property line. I did request what did I call the town, or was it the town or the county? I've made so many phone calls about this. It's kind of crazy, but I did put in a request for a detailed sketch of the neighborhood. I have yet to hear back from the county about that. But it was something that Eric Cooper recommended that I do. And I just haven't heard back where I could, put that in this presentation and show that there are a number of houses like 4868, 4860 that are, as you can see, that far left property, the 4868, is within 15 feet. So it's not going to look, with it done properly and not being an outbuilding garage, this will stay consistent with the development's aesthetics.
Do we have any questions from anyone on the board for the applicant?
Terrence, do we have an updated one with the 20 by 40 addition being moved forward from what shows here?
No, we don't have an updated site plan.
I assume that this corner continues right on that line.
Say that again, Carl?
Well,
corner?
I think this corner would be probably somewhere, but it's 3 feet forward, but still the same number of feet from the lot line.
That's correct. Yeah, from the variance, it was moved forward to just be absolutely certain I wasn't even close to that rear property line.
Okay.
So you're correct. Yeah, it's not going to change the variance to the west, but to the north. I just wanted to be absolutely certain that I was only requesting 1 variance and not 2.
So is this affecting the size of the breezeway?
No, it would just be offset a little bit more. I mean, it might be a little bit smaller. We haven't pinned down what the size of the breezeway, or if we're going to kind of inch into the addition or kind of go more east towards the house, but it's going to be about a 6 by 6 breezeway. It just depends where we can access the house and keep it from conditioned space to conditioned space, as Chris has outlined. That is of the utmost importance in this application.
So am I correct to say that if the breezeway is not there, you don't need the variance?
Correct. And I can put up an outbuilding. I know I've spoke to Chris, like yes, having a building there would be nice, but we really want to do right by our neighbors and make it consistent with the neighborhood, that we're not just putting up a garage, because yes, it does kind of suit its needs, but we're willing to do what it takes to make sure that our neighbors are happy and that we're not just putting up what would look like an RV garage.
So I just want to clarify, just for the record, there's been some discussion about what would be allowed without the breezeway. There could be a detached structure, not as proposed, because you wouldn't be able to have a sanitary sewer line to the structure.
Correct.
So you could have some stripped down version of a detached structure, but not the structure proposed.
Yeah, that's right.
So I mean, Matt, my hesitation on this is that, variances run with the land. They're there forever. I'm having a little bit of pause because I still don't know exactly where this structure is. We've got a rough sketch plan, but you're telling me that the principal structure, this 20 by 40, is going to be moved forward. Trying to conceptualize where that will be. You're also telling me that the breezeway isn't really locked in yet, exactly where that's going to be.
Well, I have a drawing. I'm trying to see if I can minimize this. View options. Let's see, 50%. No, that doesn't fix it.
Because when we approve a variance, it's subject to the plans presented.
Yeah, so if I could exit this appropriately, exit full screen, there we go. So here's the actual, if I could share my screen, share screen. Oh, Chris, is there any way you could help me? Share this.
Unmute.
Can I share my screen with you all?
I cannot permit anyone to share screens. You can email it to me and I can put it up.
Okay.
The town has had some issues with screen sharing recently, if you weren't aware.
Oh,
Little issues.
someone hinted at that. Let's see here. Okay. Chris, I'm sending you this screenshot, and it does, it kind of shows it down to the inch here. C. Jensen, Town of Canandaigua.
Yep. .org.
Okay. It should only take a second, as it is it's just a screenshot.
Okay.
But it is very clear, the size, its proximity to the driveway, its proximity to the garage, and you'll get a better idea of what that condition breezeway is. Let's make sure, yes, it did send. Yeah, you should have it. And you'll also see, I did put the bathroom in there. And yeah, I should have been more clear. Like this, it is very figured out. We might be moving inches, not feet, when it comes down to it. But this is, with the contractor that we have in mind, he's, 100% on board. This makes sense. So yeah, we're just waiting for the green light from the town to give this a go. Did that come through, Chris?
Sometimes our server's a little slow.
Sure. So Terrence, I understand what you're saying. You know, you said the variance request is forever. Is that what you were saying?
Yes.
I mean, I'm trying to think. I mean, if tomorrow I could put up an outbuilding, is there something that I could retroactively go back and say, hey, you know what, can I apply for, you know, this to be a conditioned space and apply to put a bathroom in there? Can I go from it backwards? Like, can I just put up the building and then go back and say, hey, can I retroactively do this?
Yeah, I don't generally, think it's
I
good
can
for us to
comment on
give
that.
preemptive decisions, but Chris may want to speak to that.
I can
Sure.
comment and say that yes, if you applied for a building permit tomorrow for an unconditioned accessory structure, the same size, same location, I could issue
Yep.
the building permit. If you want
Okay.
to put a bathroom in it, then you'd have to get a variance for a bathroom in an accessory structure.
Sure.
Well, and just to clarify, Chris, wouldn't at that point it become a second residential unit if it has full
Now,
utilities?
residential has certain things, requirements as far as eating, cooking, sleeping, during things like that to make it a single family residence.
Okay. No, my point more, Matt, was that anytime we grant a variance, it's subject to plans. I need to be able to know where the structure is going to be with some level of precision. The only
Yeah,
plan I
that's
have
fair.
submitted is one from December, and you're telling me that both the principal structure and the breezeway are not going to be in the position that they're represented on that plan. And so
That's
why
fair.
how do I even consider a vote of approval when I don't have a final plan?
Sure.
Hey, Matt,
And that's, yes, go ahead, Chris.
I'm going to make you a co-host really quickly so you can share plans, then I'll unhook you, okay?
Okay, sounds good.
There you go.
All right, let me pull this up. Share screen. So let's see if you guys can. And I did just resend it. Can everyone see that clearly? So you can see where this is 22 feet, 4 inches. Can everyone see that blue highlighted? And then if I highlight this, it's 40. And then, so where it goes from the matrix to the green would be the 15 feet. And then you can see the conditioned breezeway right off the garage. And the only reason I set this back a little bit was I wasn't sure if there needed, like we've done some things like putting in a generator where part of it had to be behind the house. So I wasn't sure if it needed to be, an inch behind the house or a little bit behind. So I just went back, maybe a foot there. But this
If it's
is
if it's part of the house, it's the house itself, so it doesn't need to be set back
Okay.
any.
fair enough. Okay, so yeah, this is only an inch setback, but it will be brought. I mean, no, I'm sorry. This is my wife and I decided this was the final where it is set back. Because we wanted a little bit of an angled door, as it would look much nicer. And then I can go to. Does that give you a better look, Terrence, of where the garage is and where the addition will start and where the breezeway will start?
Yeah, so this structure is going to be slightly larger. You're showing us at 22 feet by
40, because this one's 20, 27. It's 27 and 13's 40. Yeah.
I see the stairs. Is this to a basement or to another level?
two
It would be to
stories.
another level. To keep it consistent with the flow. So it wasn't just like a single level something that it would be house height or garage height. So I tried to accurately depict where the addition will be, where our yard is, where the pool starts, where our patio is. But does that give you a better idea of where everything is?
Yeah, it gives me a conceptual idea, but we need a plan, Matt, that we're going to approve this based on. So if this is your plan, it needs to be submitted as part of your application. And then the variance would be conditioned that it's subject to this plan. So if the plan changes, then the variance is null and void.
Okay, that's fair.
I guess so it is going to be 22 feet. I can't see the top, the width
That's
of
correct.
the
Yeah,
22, 4.5. So that's 2 1/3 feet more than the other was.
but I mean, this is me, putting it together because we didn't want to go through with a contractor, an architect, to go through all this and then be denied, said variance request.
Yeah, but the thing is when he makes, when they grant a variance, it says this variance is granted based upon the plans received at this time and stuff. All we have right now is that 20 by 40 and that 6 by 6 breezeway. You have the option of resubmitting a new plan with the exact dimensions and the exact setbacks, and then they can see it again.
So Matt, you're kind of putting the cart before the horse a little bit. We never approve a variance without a plan. You're wanting to get the variance before you finalize your plan.
Got it. Okay.
So at least for me, speaking 1 of 5 on the board, where I'm at right now is that I don't feel like I have enough information to vote tonight because I don't have a plan that I'm voting to potentially approve or deny. I don't know how others on the board feel, and we can have that discussion, but that's at least where I'm at right now.
I agree with that also. I guess the other question is, do you need Matt to have 22 1/3 feet, or could you get along with the 20 feet as originally? Because if you had 20 feet, you could bring another 2 1/4 or 2 1/3 feet farther from the lot line and have less of a variance.
Well, it wouldn't be less of I would still do the 15 feet. It would be 2.5 going the other way, going east towards the pool where we don't need a request for it. So could I go on the 20 by 40? Can that be what's voted on tonight? And then, we'll stick with the 20 by 40 and not do the extra 2 feet. The only reason I added that was just to show that our plan was to keep it closer to the garage. But
I guess my other question would be, if you then go to the contractor and for whatever reason, for design reasons or whatever, he doesn't like the 20 by 40, you again are up a tree. So I can see, I know you want to do it right and be more economical in the way you are proceeding, but I see a problem there also, or potential problem.
Can I ask what the upper story is going to be? Is that just going to be an open area?
yes, it was going to be an exercise area for my wife and I, where the bottom floor would be. I was trying to find, I did have a way to get it to show the upper area, and that's what I did in the first presentation. Oh, there we go.
Okay.
Let's see if I can get back to that Zoom meeting share.
You can't share screens anymore. It ran out.
Okay.
I was just trying to get to the point of character of the neighborhood. This becomes almost an 1,800 square foot addition to the home. And I guess I agree with Terrence. I'd like to see, it would be interesting to see the plan and where it all fits together with the house as a done deal, but
I would think that moving it forward would help a little bit from your neighbor's standpoint, because it would be less of an area of their
Yeah.
view to the
Yeah.
north.
The pool rear area. Chris, could I have one more second just to share? I was able to figure this thing out. Let's see if I can get this to work. So that's what it looks like on the garage. And again, this is me doing it, so it's not a professional architectural setting, but let me see if I can get this to go here too. It's just not going to go. Okay. Yeah, unfortunately, it's not going to get me a good look at that second floor. All right, so back to the drawing board. What do I need to do to present just a down to the inch depiction of what it's all going to look like? Final, whether it's 22 or 20 feet or 40 feet.
From my perspective, Matt, what I would like, once again, as 1 out of 5, is a site plan that's done by a surveyor. So I think what you would need to do is get together with your builder and have a more final discussion about what are the actual dimensions of the structure, where is it going to be located, and then have a surveyor put that on a site plan. That's what we normally would look to have when we vote on approval. Personally, I don't need full architectural renderings or anything like that. I know that Dave had a question about that may be more in line with wanting that information because he had some concern about the impact on the character of the neighborhood. But Dave, you can speak to that. But from my perspective, I need a survey, a site plan.
I'm, you know, in addition, the question is it within, you know, is it within the character of the neighborhood? And obviously, if you can do it without the variance, or the better, the least amount of variance, the better my opinion is on it. But I agree with you. You know, I'm not telling anybody what they can put in their addition. It's just, it becomes an issue. It's a substantial addition. It's, you know, it's bigger than a lot of houses. So it's, but you know, that's your business, Matt. So.
John, did you have a comment? You were on mute.
No, Terrence, I'm fine. Thank you very
Okay,
much.
thanks.
Terrence,
right.
would it be okay for me to submit the application with the image that I put in today? So if I went back to my because it was something that my wife and I agreed on, like, yep, this is it. And I know the numbers are 22 instead of 20, and the rendering is closer to the garage than the 20 by 40 image that we first put in there. But that final one that my wife and I did, would that be acceptable? Or Chris, I don't know if that one goes to you. Would that be acceptable to submit as in our application for today to be voted on? So I could go back to my developer and say, hey, this was approved, and I know it's 22 instead of 20.
So a plan has to be in the town for like 2 weeks before they're allowed to vote upon it and stuff like that. So, because it needs
Okay.
public notice, neighbors have to be able to comment on it and stuff. So
Okay.
anything you propose today or show today really couldn't be voted upon and stuff
Fair
like
enough.
that.
Yeah, the only plan we have is that hand-drawn one on the aerial image that shows the 20 by 40 with the 6 by 6 offset.
6x6. Okay,
That's the only thing we could vote on tonight.
got it.
So do you want to hold off and put something more professional together and then see it in the future?
Yep.
Okay.
Thanks, Matt. All right, we'll go to our last public hearing now. This is for property at 2397 Mcintyre Road. The applicant is seeking an area variance for a 2-car detached garage, 28.5 feet when 22 feet is the maximum allowable height. So Mr. Gorowski?
Great, thank you. Good evening, everyone. So my plans, I personally built a house probably about 11 years ago. And as with everyone, growing family, there's a need. You start accumulating a lot of stuff. So I have a need to build more storage capacity. So based on my needs between a boat, tractor, and a few other things, I decided to go with a 2-story detached car garage. The height, there's a few driving factors of the height of why it's 28.5 foot. One is a 10-foot clearance required in the garage from ceiling down to floor. Really, the boat is driving that height in the open garage door space. And also what's driving the height is my desire to keep with the architecture of the house. I have a 12 by 12 slope roof on the house. And I'm doing my best. I didn't want to build a pole barn. I wanted to build a structure that really matches the house. So same siding, same look, same architecture, just to keep, the similar look of the property. So that's another driving factor. I worked with a truss manufacturer, Morris Lumber, who helped design that truss to be efficient as possible. I did go to the extent of having this professionally designed to ensure that I'm maximizing, and I'm trying to minimize, the size and maximizing the desire of the need. With regards to my neighbors and just the local area, I do own the lot next door. It's a 5-acre vacant lot that provides some buffer. And then my immediate neighbor, Rick King, I did approach, and I think I submitted a letter of his support with regards to, building a structure out of variance. The lot's pretty deep, 1,000 foot deep, 500 foot from any, either the public road or property lines. So I feel, I know this will be a little bit more sizable within height. I think I do have the buffer that would maybe go against the effect of the size of the garage. Trying to think what else. I did request a FOIL through the town about other height variance requests and approvals. I did, the FOIL ended up providing 2 similar properties that had approvals for height variances. One is Jeff Hanford and his barn structure, which, being involved with youth baseball for many, many years, have used that facility. And then another facility on 2070 Ricer Road. And I believe I did submit that to the committee or to the board, those findings. So those are 2 previous approvals of height variances. So does anyone have any questions with regards to the request of the height variance?
You said the major reason is because of the size of your boat. Why-
Boat and tractor, yep.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, basically, I have 12 acres between the two lots. Right now, my neighbor Bush hogs that for me twice a year. And I'm, the kids, after this year, both kids will be at college, so my workforce is pretty much dwindled down to myself, so I'm gonna have to get some, plowing. Even this year is a little troublesome, but just the tractor's gonna be used for plowing. I'm gonna be making that purchase. So just between the tractor, the boat, and some of the other stuff I have right now, I have storage just out in the field. I like to get that enclosed, my zero-turn tractor, trailer, stuff like that. This is a two-level garage. The upper level will be used for storage, the storage loft, basically just storing boxed items that are currently now in the basement, taking up space and taking up room. So that's a need for that two-level, all the storage stuff in the basement, basically. We want to get more use out of our basement, and right now we can't because it's all really being taken up by stuff.
So just so I can understand, initially you said that the height of your boat, I thought, was a major reason for needing the excess height, but now you're talking more about storage. So
so there's twofold. So the two level garage gives me adequate storage for both equipment, tools, and then items that are non-equipment tools. So really the use of the two-story structure is going to be upstairs will be boxes and storage. It is all non-conditioned space, basically. So upstairs will be, items that are currently in the basement, just boxes and boxes and boxes and totes and storage. Downstairs will be for the equipment where, it'll be access to the weather, wetness, dirt, so forth. That'll be all the equipment, boat storage, trailer storage, tractor, zero turn, all of those items. The garage, the garage door itself is the garage door itself requires about 2'6" clear just to operate. So that's driving that as well, having a 9-foot high door. So working with the architect and talking with the door supplier, there's a clearance requirement just to get the garage space to clear. So that is driving that. I think it's about just over 2 foot requirement. Or foot 6, I believe, foot and a half.
Are there any other questions from the board on this application?
Chris, what's the zoning designation here?
AR2, isn't it?
I would guess. I just was curious.
No, that is
Yeah, it
correct,
is.
I believe.
Yep.
Any other questions or something I didn't answer or provide clarification on?
Well, while we wait for maybe some additional questions, let's open this up to the audience. Is there anybody here in attendance that has a comment to this application that they'd like to share? All right, hearing none, we'll go back to the board. Any final questions on this application from anyone on the board? You're on mute, Chip.
You got to unmute yourself, Carl.
Yeah, I got it. In the fairly close area, it must be agricultural district because there are a number of regular farm barns that are certainly in that height. So in terms of it being different than in the neighborhood, where that might be taken into consideration.
Carl, from an equivalent, so to speak.
Yeah, no, just there are a number of barns that are similar height or maybe even higher.
Yeah, I know around the corner on Yerkes, there's a few structures. I don't think there's anything on Mcintyre Road itself, but Yerkes, and I believe there may be one in New Michigan as well, in the surrounding areas, but not on Mcintyre.
Right.
Any final questions? All right. Mr. Kurowski, you comfortable closing this application?
Yes.
All right, well, with that, we will close. And we'll move into our deliberations.
All right. Thanks everyone for their time.
Thank you.
You're on mute, Terrence.
My bad. Okay, I was saying, let's begin with John's application on County Road 16. My view is we've already looked at this project. We've already approved variances based upon the updated site plan. All the variances are improving. The new one is the paver. I don't really have any issue with the paver location. I don't know if anyone else has any other thoughts they'd like to discuss.
One comment is if you see the plan, I'll share the screen. Here's the site plan. Can everyone see it?
Yes.
The blue line was where the shoreline was before and what was approved before. He had DEC approval, so now he filled in per the DEC approval. So that's also why he has more frontage and more distance between his structures and patio and stuff in the lake.
Yep. Okay, so back to the members of the board. Any thoughts you want to discuss on this application? Okay, hearing none, let's call a vote then. Chris, are you gonna do roll call on vote tonight?
I've never done it before, so however you want to run it.
All right, well, if you're able to do that, great. If not, I can do it.
It would work if you did it or I did it. I would have to read the names off the screen. And do you have the
Okay.
decision sheets?
Then let me,
Actually, I got them up now if you want me to read it.
yeah, go ahead if you have them.
Okay. Applicant is requesting an area variance for, oh, no, there we go. Next one. Sorry, guys. I'm learning. Applicant is requesting an area variance for a front setback for an accessory building of 4.76 feet when 60 feet is required, a 54.24 foot variance. Area variance for back lake setback for accessory building of 17.9 feet when 25 feet is required, 7.1 foot variance, and an area variance for rear lake setback for accessory structure, which is the paver patio, not the walkway, of 2.5 feet when 25 feet is required. That's switched to
2.8.
2.8 feet per the updated site plan that we have had the town for a while. Shall the applicant be granted a 55.24 foot variance for an accessory structure shed when 60-foot front back setback is required? Do I call the members or something, Terrence?
Yeah, just call them in the order that they're there on the sheet.
Mr. Bob Hilliard,
Yes.
David Emery,
Yes.
Kelly Lavoie,
Yes.
Chip Saylor,
Yes.
Terrence Robinson.
Yes. So Chris, when we After we vote, I will generally give a decision, findings of fact and conditions. Is this meeting being recorded?
Yes, it is.
Okay, so then Michelle can type this all up.
Yes.
All right, great. So here, I'll do that now.
Did I do the other two or?
Oh, yeah, that's right. There's 3. Yeah, you can call all 3.
Okay. Shall the applicant be granted a 55.24-foot variance from an accessory structure shed when 60-foot front setback is required? Bob Hilliard,
Yes.
David Emery,
Yes.
Kelly LaVoy,
Yes.
Chip Saylor,
Yes,
Terrence Robinson.
Yes. And Chris, you can just call first names on all these votes.
Okay. Shall the applicant be granted a 7.1-foot variance for an accessory structure shed when 25 feet rear setback is required? That's the one we just did. Sorry. Shall the applicant be granted a 22.5-foot variance for an accessory structure, the paver patio, when 25-foot rear setback is required? Bob?
Yes.
Really quick before we vote on this one, that was the change to 2.8.
Okay.
So that should be
22.2.
22.2, right?
Okay, yes. David?
Wait,
Yeah.
read the question again with the correct footage, please.
Okay. Shall the applicant be granted a 22.8-foot variance for an accessory structure paver patio when 25-foot rear setback is required? Bob?
No, it's 22.2. Because you
Sorry.
should be 2.8 off of the line, right? And it's 25 feet. So I think if I have my math right, it should be 22.2.
So it's reduced, not added. My bad.
Yep.
Shall the applicant be granted a 22.2-foot variance for an accessory structure paver patio when 25-foot rear setback is required? Bob?
Still yes.
David?
Yes.
Kelly?
Yes.
Chip?
yes,
Terrence?
Yes.
Thanks, guys.
Yep, no problem. Okay, the board's decision is based on the descriptions and drawings provided on the various dates that will be filled in by the development office and the information received during the public hearing. The board has determined that the benefit to the applicant does outweigh any detriment to the neighborhood or the community, therefore the variance is granted. This application is a slight modification of an approval granted in December of 2020. The board has reviewed that application and the proposed revisions and the amended site plan, which was submitted in January of 2021. I believe the date is January 21st. And the board has determined that the granting of this variance is in keeping with the character of the neighborhood. There are similar setbacks on parcels in the neighborhood based on the information provided from the applicant, and the variance will not change the character of the neighborhood. In addition, the board has considered the unique topography of this location and the approval by the DEC for additional fill to be put in. The board places 2 conditions on the approval. The first is that the variance grant is specific to the most recent plan submitted to the Zoning Board of Appeals, and any change in the plan shall invalidate the variance. And the variance is conditioned upon building permits being issued within 1 year of the date the variance is granted. Failure to obtain the building permit or building permits within 1 year shall invalidate the variance. Okay. Next, we have 2397 Mcintyre Road. Obviously, and just for the record, 4864 was continued at the request of the applicant to provide additional information. So we're at 2397 Mcintyre. I think it was Chip who was saying this. I apologize if it wasn't, but this is a very agricultural area. Mcintyre Road has a lot of farmland around it. I know that in the past we've been strict with some height requests on detached garages and accessory structures. I think that there is a very significant need to be stringent on those when we're infringing on lake views. But this is not that zoning district, and it's an agricultural district, and I don't think it will look out of place. And this property is really long east to west, and the house is set back quite a bit off of the road. After clearing my driveway this morning, I don't envy Edward's. You don't need to get that driveway plowed all winter long, but I don't have any real issue with this one. I don't know if others do.
I'm okay with it.
I'm glad Chip made that comment, because I was thinking about other decisions that have been made, and having a taller accessory structure to accommodate more storage. I was initially not on board, but then thinking about the neighborhood in that area, and I'm glad Chip mentioned that. I feel differently now.
Can I ask, just as something to think about in crafting your findings of fact, are there any situations in this zoning district where you might be opposed to it? We don't want to make a blanket rule that all you have to do is apply for a variance and get one in the AR2 zoning district. Are there situations where that might not be the case?
Well,
Yeah.
the only thing to me that does help in this case is he's trying to do a 12-12 pitch on, and the same siding that matches his house, which I don't think is a bad idea. I mean, if you had a house that, if the two didn't fit together, that might be a different situation to me.
I agree. I think the differentiating factors here, Chris, are the overall impact on the character of the neighborhood will be minimal because it's matching, both in terms of the roof pitch and the building materials, the principal structure of the house, and it is extremely set back off the road. If we had a large detached garage right up on the road, I might feel differently, or one that was going to dominate over the principal structure.
Okay, great.
And Chris Nather, remind us of the rules. There is a rule about the size of the detached garage relative to the principal structure. Did that go away?
That would be a Chris Jensen question.
Okay, Chris Jensen.
It's based on separation distance from the primary structure if the secondary structure is taller than the primary structure.
What about square footage, dominating it square footage wise?
Oh, I could look it up really quick. Hold on.
It's a good question.
Because I thought that we took that cap away and it's just based upon the size of the parcel now. Am I remembering that correctly?
What we have is, except in these districts, such as the AR2, detached accessory buildings that are taller than the principal building, having footprint greater than the principal building, shall be setback equal to the side setback required for the accessory. So it's when the secondary structure is bigger and taller than the primary home.
Okay, which we don't have either of those here, so.
It kind of fits with the agricultural market anyway, right? I mean, if you think about it, usually they have some sort of structure that's larger than the home on the property, in my opinion. I mean, I don't know if have we ever had that question before? I mean, we've never really had anything come in front of us, right?
Well, I do think
We've had accessory structures larger than the primary structure, but that isn't the case here, though.
And in terms of the height, I do want to make sure that we don't, go into a realm where, because this is an agricultural dominated district, that we start applying agricultural accessory structure standards to residential accessory structures. This isn't going to be an agricultural barn.
Right. Okay. Got it.
Because those can be quite large.
Right.
No, and your point is, if he had put a pole barn in that
Right.
spot, we'd have be having a different discussion right now.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Any other comments before we call a vote? Okay. Chris Jensen, would you call a vote?
Will do. Applicant is requesting an area variance. Shall the applicant be granted a 6.5-foot variance for height of a garage when 22 foot is the maximum height allowed? Bob?
Yes.
David?
Yes.
Kelly?
Yes.
Chip?
Yes,
Terrence?
Yes. So the board's decision is based on the descriptions and drawings provided on the dates that will be filled in by the development office, and the board has determined that the benefit to the applicant does outweigh the detriment to the neighborhood or the community, and therefore the variance is granted. The board makes the following specific findings of fact. This variance will not change the character of the neighborhood because this is the AR2 district, and the neighborhood, the portion of the district in which this property resides, is dominated by agricultural parcels. The structure is going to be of the same overall building material as the principal structure in terms of siding and roof pitch and roof materials. It will fit in with the character of the neighborhood as it will match the principal structure. It will not have a taller height than the principal structure. And the principal structure is set back a significant distance from the road. I like, Chris, if we could insert the exact distance there from the site plan. I don't remember that off the top of my head, but it is significant. And so it will not impede any sight lines or impact view shed of the neighbors. The principal structure is set back further from the road than the neighboring residents to the north.
The distance is about 400 feet or more.
Okay, great. Well, let's just put in whatever that exact distance is in the decision sheet. You can leave that for a task for Michelle. Members of the board, is there any other findings of fact on this one you want to include? No? Okay. And then we will place our 2 standard conditions, which are that the variance grant is specific to the most recent plan submitted to the Zoning Board of Appeals, and any change in that plan will invalidate the variance. And the variance is conditioned on building permits being issued within 1 year of the date the variance is granted. Failure to obtain building permits within 1 year shall invalidate the variance. Okay, that concludes our deliberations. We do have a little bit of board business. I make a motion that we approve the December minutes.
Second.
Is that Bob?
Yes.
Okay, motion and a second by Bob. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
aye,
Aye. Any nays?
No.
Okay, so those minutes are approved. Chris Jensen, we generally will have the courtesy of a preview of the next month's agenda. Do you have any idea of who we might be looking at, apart from the one continued public hearing for Max Schwalm?
I do not right at the moment, no.
Okay, and that's fine. Do you have anything that we should review in terms of referrals from the town board? It says that there might be one from ordinance committee.
Again, I'm sorry, I wasn't given anything.
Okay.
Just ask Bob.
Oh, or
Bob
John.
Doesn't sit on the committee.
Off the top of my head, I don't remember, John. Do you?
I do not. I can't remember if there was anything coming to the ZBA.
Yeah, I don't recall.
Yeah, I don't either.
All right.
I'll be more prepared next time, if there is a next time.
The town board last night set a public hearing on the revisions to the swimming pool code.
Perfect.
So you can all take a look at that and submit comments directly to the town board if you have any problems with it.
Okay.
So we're none of us have jobs as lifeguards, is what you're saying. Right?
I would hope not.
You're funny.
All right. I do have one matter that I think would be good in an executive session because it deals with legal advice from counsel. So I'd make a motion that we go into executive session.
Is there anyone else on this call? David Levy, is he?
Yeah, I see one participant still.
Okay, I'll have him go.
But still, I can't go into executive session without a second and a vote agreeing.
Second,
Okay,
second.
okay, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any nays? Okay.
And did that motion include your attorney and your code enforcement officer? Your code enforcement officer is gonna need to be there, otherwise we can't have a meeting.
Yes.
Oh, I could make you the host if you want to and disappear.
No, thank you.
So just, I'm sure that you guys have it all under control, but maybe just for our benefit, I
Can
know
you
I
stop
want.
recording?
Yes,
Yeah,
stop recording.
Stop recording.
Okay, recording has stopped.